This is TomSnakeTV.com.
Are you ready?
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You ready?
Truth.
I'm going to read it. Here it is. Stay tuned. Today, I want to talk about this abortion issue. And if I were to name or give title to this show, I would call it The Name Changed, but the game stayed the same. What am I talking about? If you look at or been keeping up, the New York Times ran an article concerning abortion. And it says the Supreme Court sidesteps abortion question and ruling on Indiana law. We're talking about the law, the Seventh Circuit, federal court that determines law or opinions here in Indiana. This article is by Adam Littak and was done May 28, 2019. It says, in an apparent compromise in a case from Indiana, the justices turned down an appeal that asked the court to reinstate a law banning abortion solely because of the sex or disability of a fetus. But the court upheld part of the same law requiring the abortion providers to bury or cremate fetal remains. In a 20-page concurring opinion on Tuesday, Justice Clarence Thomas echoed and amplified Judge Easterbrook's dissent. The Indiana law, Justice Thomas wrote, furthered the state's compelling interest in providing abortion from becoming a tool of modern day eugenics. My Lord. I got the ruling. Put that up, Slick. I got the ruling, and I read the ruling, and in the concurring opinion of Justice Thomas. And that man done one hell of analysis, historical analysis, on how abortion came into existence and became law here in America. Justice Thomas said Indiana law prohibits abortion providers from treating the bodies of an aborted child as infectious waste and incinerating them alongside, listen to this, used needles, laboratory animal carcasses, and surgical byproducts. They just wanted to take the remains of a child that they had removed from the room, put it with carcasses of animals, dead bodies of animals and needles, and just throw it in the fire and say, just burn it up. In Indiana law says, no, you just can't treat the remains like that. You know, there's a law against desecrating or mutilating corpses. And in Planned Parenthood, that's the name now, and he gets into this. Y'all buckle up. This is going to be a rough ride, because I'm telling you, you listening to the most truthful talk show host in the business, UnBought, UnBossed, and UnAfraid. What kind of humans want to, first of all, extract and kill the child out of its mother's womb, and then take the remains of that child, pretty much roll it up and throw it in the trash with some animal carcasses, with some dead cats or some dead dogs or a dead cow, and then just burn it up in a furnace like it's not human. See, I say humans that take that kind of position, it's clear they're not humane. But they make me question whether they are human or not. And Judge Thomas is taking them to task. He says a panel of the Seventh Circuit held that this fetal remains law was irrational. The appellate court, the Seventh Court of Appeals, the federal Seventh Appellate Court of Appeals thought that was all right. They said it was okay to put a developing child's remains in a fire alongside of dead cats and dogs. God. This panel said that under the doctrine of substantive due process, this was all right. What is substantive due process? This is a legal concept that says that the courts should not get into certain rights that a person has just because they're a human. Well, where is the right of a human, an inalienable right of a human, to take the remains of a child from a human, from a womb, and put it into a fire, cremate it, alongside dead cats and dogs? Is that respectful? And he makes, Justice Thomas says, now, I would have thought it could go without saying that nothing in the Constitution or any decision of this court prevents a state from requiring abortion facilities to provide for the respectful treatment of human beings or human remains. I would think so. What he's saying is why does anybody even have to say that? You don't find that in the Constitution, that that's an inalienable right to take the remains of a child from its mother's womb, put it into a fire, and burn it up with dead dogs and cats. Where do you find that in the Constitution? But the Seventh Court of Appeals, the Southern Indiana Seventh Court of Appeals, said that was all right. I'm with Judge Thomas. Why do you even have to say that? Why do you even have to tell a human that if there's a remains, if something has died, if something is no longer has life, that you get rid of the remains respectfully. You don't take it and just throw it into a furnace with a dead dog or a dead cat with some mice. But he goes on to talk about the other part of the ruling. He says I write separately to address the other aspects of Indiana law at issue here. The sex selective and disability abortion ban. This statute makes it illegal for an abortion provider to perform an abortion in Indiana when the provider knows that the mother is seeking the abortion solely because of the child's race, sex, or has been diagnosed of Down syndrome, disability, or related characteristics. Indiana law says that you cannot, if the mama says, I don't want the baby because of its sex or because of its race, then you cannot kill the baby in the womb. I question why a mother would want to kill her baby in the womb anyhow. But for her to say that I don't like the sex, I wanted a girl instead of a boy. I wanted a boy instead of a girl. And because it's a boy, or because it's a girl, which is mainly the position taken, I want to kill it because I don't want a female child. Or I messed around and had a relationship with a black man, and out of that relationship, out of that me giving the vagina away, he put a baby in my womb, and I don't want that baby because I don't want a black baby. And Indiana law says that if that's the reason for a mother to get an abortion, then you can't get an abortion in Indiana. I would agree with that. But that has a history. And Judge Thomas goes down through that history, and that history comes from what they call the eugenics society, the position to where is that you had to clean the human race because there are certain people in the human race that are superior to other people in the human race. And so you don't want those people that are inferior to be having babies so that it taints the superior race and makes it less viable in the country. Are y'all listening to me? This was a position, and it was a position held in this country. And this country has a history of devaluating human life, basically human life of people of African descent. Who was it? Justice Taney, or it was the Supreme Court in 1737, I think it was. Somewhere around there, I got it written down here somewhere. But in the 1700s, it said that as people, it took 5 black people to make 3 white people. That decision by the Supreme Court devalued our humanity. it says that there were certain people, white people, who were superior to other people, people of African descent, and therefore they wanted to make it known by law that we were less than human. And Judge Thomas is making that point. So that's the history. I'm saying the name has changed, but the game is the same. They still want to treat us as being less than human. And now, instead of calling it abortion, they call it Planned Parenthood. But it all has its genesis from us being 3/5 of a man. Are y'all listening to me? I'm telling you, you're listening to the most truthful talk show host in the game. The game stayed the same. All they did was change the name. That's the same thing they did with slavery. They said that they eradicated slavery, but they didn't. They just said that you had to be convicted of a crime, and so they set out to make us all criminals so that they can continue to enslave us. And so now the new slavery is in the prison. They don't call it slavery. They changed the name, but the game is still the same. I'm unbought, unbossed, and unafraid of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the butt-naked truth. And the eugenicists, these cats, they was going to not only codify it in law, but make it science. That there are some people more superior than other people, and they just happen to be white. And these eugenics, these, I ain't gonna call them clowns, but these people, and then I even question if they are people, if they're humane. I know they're not humane, but are they human? They was running around at Harvard University in 1927. How many black folks was in Harvard or at Harvard in 1927? But it was black people at Harvard that they had slaves, and they was pushing the academic position that white people were more more human than black people, than people of African descent. So it was all right to kill their babies, kill them people, enslave them, work them from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, and it was all right because they were not as human as white people, and we're creating the science to prove it such. And so Margaret Sanger said, well, let's further the science. Justice Thomas breaks it down. He says, whereas Sanger believed that birth, do I want to go there first? No. Yeah, that's where I want to go. He said, whereas Sanger believed that birth control could prevent unfit people, and see, you got to understand coded language. Unfit was people of African descent. Whereas Sanger believed that birth control could prevent unfit people from reproducing, abortion can prevent them from being born in the first place. Do you understand the genesis of what you're talking? There's this lady on Facebook, Diana. And here, Diana, I'm not talking to you, girl. I'm talking about you. I'm not talking with you. Talk to me later. Call me later. I'm Dirty Diana. She says that just because she's a woman, she ought to be able to kill the baby that's in her womb. It's my body. I ought to be able to do. Diana, no, lady, I'm not talking to you. See, people be listening to this show. You'll be surprised who'll call this phone trying to get in on this show and taint the information that I'm trying to give you, but I'm not letting them interrupt. I'm UnBought. Diana, quit it, girl. Quit it. UnBossed. And see, she's persistent. She want to get in. Dirty Diana, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about you. And she just believes that a fetus had the nerve to say that a fetus was not life. And she got a child. How did that child get here if it didn't start out as a fetus? What kind of mama is that? How has America allowed us to devalue human life? And she even, she plays dirty. She talks about my son and how he was involved in that situation up in Carmel and how 3 precious lives were lost. And I agonize concerning that my son would even be caught up in that. But even with him being caught up in that, he valued life to the degree that he took no one's life. He took TVs, he took electronics, he took the liberty to go into somebody's house unwelcome. But he did not take a life. She says, well, that shows bad parenting. Well, it may. Let's grant that. Say I was a bad parent. Does that justify her wanting to kill a child in the womb? See, that's what Margaret Sanger and them was saying. They gonna get out here and they ain't gonna act right. So just kill them in the womb. Diana Wood, Dirty Diana, she was calling. She want to get into the program. No, I'm not talking with you, Diana. I'm talking about you. And Justice Thomas is talking about Sanger. Let me say one other thing. You know, I prayed deeply, unceasingly, as to why my child would be caught up in something like that situation in Carmel. Because he wasn't taught that. I mean, Diana would like you to believe that, but he wasn't taught that. He wasn't taught that by his father, nor his mother. And we don't support the loss of life that happened. And I apologize for him, and in fact, he would apologize himself, even being there, because he wasn't supposed to be there. But even with being there, what he taught, and we taught the value of life in our house. And that lesson stuck with him to whereas he did not take any life while he was there. And my sympathies, my condolences, my sorrow goes out to the family who experienced that loss. But it was not at the hands of my son. But Dirty Diana, she's talking about killing. She ain't talking about preserving life. She's talking about killing a baby before it even gets out of its mother's vagina. And historically is what Clarence Thomas is speaking about. And I'm almost out of time and haven't even gotten to the program. He said, whereas Sanger believed that birth control could prevent unfit people from reproducing, abortion can prevent them from being born in the first place. Many eugenicists therefore supported legalizing abortion, and abortion advocates, Dirty Diana, including future Planned Parenthood President Alan Guttmacher, endorsed the use of abortion for eugenic reasons. Eugenics is just another a term for genocide. Take out people, use science, use the greatest minds in the country of America, right there at Harvard, to make a scientific position that people of African descent are less human than people, white people. And so then we can justify killing them before they're even born. And Dirty Diana, who is a woman of African descent, is supporting that position, and she acts like she don't understand that she is supporting the actual genocide of her own people, which means she's supporting the genocide of herself, because if they can keep us from having babies, then eventually we will no longer exist. I'm telling you, I'm unbought, unbossed, and unafraid of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the butt-naked truth. Galton described eugenics as the science of improving stock, taking the human race, taking the bad ones out of the human race. The bad ones looking like people of African descent, looking like me and you, taking them out of the race, leaving the white folks. That way that you would have the premier. And what gets me, and I got to say this right quick, is W.E.B. Du Bois supported and hung out with Margaret Sanger. He, in 1903, wrote an essay entitled The Talented Tenth. I'm telling you, the name changed, but the game stayed the same. It went from 3/5 of a human. That was the game. They ain't human. Then it went to abortion. Kill them before they born. We can't use that. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood. W.B. Du Bois talking about the talented tenth. Then they went from Planned Parenthood to health care. I'm telling you, they changed the name, but the game stayed the same. I had much more to say, but I couldn't get to it. These 30 minutes is just not enough. And I'll revisit this because Justice Thomas, he makes the race issue that is involved in this Planned Parenthood position. If you don't understand race in America, will confuse you. I'm unbought, unbossed, and unafraid. Next week, stay tuned. We're going to talk about the Mueller report. They say if you want to keep something with black people, put it in a book. Well, I'm going to read the book, and we're going to talk show hosts in the business. UnBought, UnBossed, and UnAfraid. And really upset about them wanting to kill the babies in the womb. I just got one question for you. You ready?
This is TomSlickTV.com.
Are you ready? You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You ready?
Ready.